Welcome to the Daily Globe. Please subscribe and hit the bell icon for more breaking updates. The world we've known for decades is vanishing. Familiar rhythms of daily life, the sense of certainty that once defined our era, are slipping away. The cities we built, the systems we trusted, now stand at a crossroads, echoing with the uncertainty of a new age. American leadership, once the bedrock of global order, is fractured. The institutions that shaped the post-war world are struggling to adapt, and the sense of unity that once held the West together is fading. The world is watching as old alliances falter and new questions arise about who will lead. In its place, a new multipolar reality is emerging, with India's rise at its core. India, with its vast population and growing influence, is stepping onto the world stage, not just as a regional power, but as a global force shaping the future. This isn't just about economics or diplomacy, it's a fundamental reordering of global power. The rules of engagement are being rewritten, and the balance of influence is shifting in ways that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. The dominance of the United States is now challenged by a constellation of rising powers, each forging their own path. Nations like China, Brazil, and India are asserting themselves, creating new alliances and reshaping the global order to reflect their own interests and values. A viral resurgence of a 1925 cartoon depicting India, China, and Africa breaking free from Western chains captured this shift, especially after President Trump's 50% tariff on Indian goods. The image became a symbol of resistance and hope, spreading rapidly across social media and igniting conversations about freedom, sovereignty, and the end of Western dominance. The power shift from west to east is no longer theory. It's unfolding now, affecting everything from fuel prices to global alliances. Decisions made in New Delhi or Beijing now ripple across continents, influencing markets, politics, and the daily lives of billions. The assumption of a Western-led world has been shattered, replaced by a more complex competitive landscape. New monuments rise where old statues fall, and the symbols of power are being rewritten for a new generation. Understanding this shift is essential for navigating the turbulent 21st century. The headlines we read, the policies we debate, and the futures we imagine are all shaped by this profound transformation. India's rise is the most significant chapter in this story, a nation of 1.4 billion reshaping the world for everyone. As India's influence grows, its choices and challenges will define not just its own destiny, but the future of the global community. To grasp today's power shift, we must look back to the end of the Cold War. The Soviet Union's collapse in 1991 left the US as the world's sole superpower, championing liberal democracy and free market capitalism. America's dominance was enforced through military interventions and the expansion of NATO, while the Washington Consensus pushed neoliberal globalization. This era shifted manufacturing to the global south, fueling the rise of China and India. Ironically, by outsourcing its industrial base, the US created its own competitors. The system seemed stable, until it became clear that economic integration wouldn't guarantee political alignment with the West. Now, the economic giants created by globalization are asserting their own interests, often in opposition to Washington. The seeds of today's transformation were sown in the unipolar era itself. The US-India partnership fractured with Trump's return to the White House and his aggressive America First agenda. Trump's rhetoric turned hostile, branding India a dead economy and accusing it of duplicity. Strategic partnership gave way to transactional dealings, measured in dollars and loyalty. The administration's 50% tariff on Indian goods disrupted supply chains and shattered trust. The deportation of over 200 Indian nationals from the US erased any illusion of a privileged relationship. Indian policymakers felt betrayed, viewing the US as unreliable and willing to sacrifice long-term goals for short-term gains. India began rethinking its foreign policy, pivoting away from reliance on the West. Trump's actions accelerated India's move toward a multi-vector foreign policy, balancing relationships with all major powers. India now seeks advantage wherever it can, refusing to be drawn into any single camp. Confronted by a hostile Washington, India found itself at a crossroads, forced to reconsider its traditional alliances and global strategy. In response, India pivoted decisively toward its Asian neighbors, seeking new opportunities and partnerships across the continent. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit in China became a powerful symbol of this eastward shift, an event that captured the world's attention. Here, India, China, and Russia projected unity and a shared vision for a multipolar world, with the West conspicuously absent, highlighting a growing divide in global politics. India's partnership with Russia has been revitalized, especially in the critical energy sector. Russian oil now accounts for nearly 30% of India's imports, providing a stable supply and cushioning India from global price shocks. In return, Russia opens its vast markets to Indian agriculture, from grains to spices, boosting rural incomes and trade. This creates a powerful economic synergy outside Western systems, allowing both nations to diversify and strengthen their economies. Meanwhile, India's economic ties with China have deepened, even as border disputes simmer in the background. India's reliance on Chinese high-tech imports has soared to $5 billion, fueling its own tech sector and consumer markets. This interdependence exposes vulnerabilities, but it also binds the two economies together in a complex web of mutual benefit and risk. India's strategic autonomy means refusing binary choices, instead engaging with all sides to maximize its own interests and influence. It strengthens security ties with the West through the Quad, ensuring a balance of power in the Indo-Pacific, while simultaneously deepening economic bonds with Russia and China via the SCO and BRICS, expanding its global reach. This pragmatic, interest-driven approach is India's answer to a world in flux, allowing it to adapt and thrive amid uncertainty. India is no longer a junior partner, but a confident nation asserting its place on the world stage, charting its own independent course, and shaping the future of global geopolitics. Global trade patterns are being redrawn, with India at the epicenter of this transformation. As the world's economic landscape shifts, India is stepping into a pivotal role, influencing the flow of goods, energy, and technology across continents. India's energy trade with Russia has surged dramatically, bypassing the US dollar and Western sanctions. This bold move has allowed India to secure vital resources at competitive prices, while also signaling a new era of economic independence and diplomatic agility. But this isn't just about oil. It's about building resilient, alternative supply chains that can withstand global shocks. India is investing heavily in logistics, infrastructure, and technology to ensure its trade routes remain open and efficient, even in uncertain times. Western companies, seeking to de-risk from China, have increasingly turned to India, boosting its electronics exports to the US and Europe. This shift is creating new opportunities for Indian manufacturers and workers, and positioning India as a key player in global supply chains. Yet, India's dependence on Chinese components for these exports has grown, creating a precarious dependency that could threaten its ambitions if geopolitical tensions rise or supply lines are disrupted. While India exports more finished goods to the West, it continues to import high-value technology and components from China. This complex relationship highlights both the opportunities and the risks of India's rapid integration into global trade. This trade imbalance reveals a strategic vulnerability at the heart of India's rise, making it clear that true economic independence will require careful navigation and long-term planning. The old model of the West as consumer and the East as producer is breaking down, giving way to a more multipolar world where new alliances and rivalries are constantly emerging. New South-South trade corridors are emerging, connecting India with Africa, Southeast Asia, and beyond, often at the expense of traditional routes that once dominated global commerce. India's challenge is clear: reduce reliance on China while maintaining access to Western markets, all while forging new partnerships and strengthening its own industrial base for the future. As Western-led institutions wane, blocs like BRICS and the SCO are rising, offering alternative visions for global governance. These platforms now represent a significant share of the world's population, GDP, and resources. Their push to trade in local currencies, bypassing the US dollar, directly challenges American financial dominance. The SCO, with India, China, and Russia as members, is evolving into a powerful bloc coordinating Eurasian interests. Recent summits have focused on regional integration, aiming to create a Eurasian order independent of Western oversight. The Global South sees these blocs as forums of equals, not dominated by the West. Their ascent is both a symptom and a driver of the global power shift. Geopolitical tremors are shaking global finance, leading to a major reallocation of capital. India, once the darling of emerging market investors, now faces uncertainty due to US tensions and trade wars. A Bank of America survey showed a sharp rise in fund managers underweighting Indian equities, making India the second least favored Asian market. Investors, wary of instability, are flocking back to China, where decisive policy action has restored confidence. China's state-led model and technological prowess are regaining investor favor. The global success of Chinese AI startups is a stark reminder that tech leadership is shifting eastward. This isn't just a market blip. It's a broader reassessment of risk and opportunity. For some, China's stability now looks more attractive than India's democratic but geopolitically vulnerable market. To understand these changes, we turn to expert voices. Mitali Mukherjee of Oxford's Reuters Institute says the old rules of alliances are gone. We're in a fluid, transactional era. The US's transactional approach plays to China's strengths, as Beijing offers partnerships without political strings. For India, being friendly with all may no longer suffice. Nations are increasingly forced to choose sides. Professor Anuradha Chenoy argues that US inconsistency forced India's pivot to Russia and China, not out of ideology, but necessity. India is hedging its bets, diversifying partnerships to safeguard its interests. The end of American exceptionalism has triggered a global realignment. India's multi-vector policy is a complex balancing act, requiring immense diplomatic skill. In a world without a single anchor, it's the only rational path for a rising power. We stand at a historic inflection point. The era of a single nation setting the global agenda is over. India's rise, alongside China and Russia's resurgence, has ushered in a multipolar world. The urgent task for Western leaders is to adapt, not resist this new reality. Diplomacy must shift from dictates to negotiation and mutual respect. The West must engage rising powers like India as equals, not clients. International institutions must be reformed to reflect new power realities. For India, leadership brings responsibility to champion a more inclusive, equitable multilateralism. Its role in BRICS and as a voice for the global South will shape the new order. The world is big enough for many powers, if they learn to coexist. The multipolar age is an opportunity to build a more balanced, resilient, and just international system